Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitanjena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatubhyascha Kripasindubhyeva cha Tanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Goda Tuse Namaha Jai Shri Gurudev. So today is the Divine Disappearance Day of Srila Narottam Thakur. We were remembering him also a couple of weeks ago. We were saying we actually we're always thinking about Narottam Thakur because so many of our songs are from him. His contribution is so important for us. Narottam Thakur and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Mostly our songs are by them. And Narottam Thakur's influence, it was very pervasive, especially in the Bengal area. Srila Gurudev mentioned that when he was growing up, because Srila Gurudev, he grew up in a Gaudiya Vaishnava family, that he said Narottam Thakur was the head of the songs department. He was number one. and then later when he joined the Mat, he said then Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his position was he became the head, the song department in the Mat. But still so many of Narottam Thakur's songs were singing, and even what is considered to be the highest song of our line, Shri Rupa Manjari Pada, that has come from Srila Narottam Thakur. Actually, everything is in his songs. Everything, starting from the the beginning point, going up to the zenith point, everything is expressed there. Shri Guru Charana Padma, Nitai Pada Kamala, all the Siddhanta is the Gaudiya Siddhanta. It is in a very sweet and charming way. It's expressed in the poetry of Srila Narottam Thakur, Nitaya Karuna Habe Braje Radha Krishna Pabe, through the grace of Nityananda Prabhu will get, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Vrindavan, then Gaurangera Duti Pada, all of these songs, in this very organic way, Narottam Thakur, he entered the culture of people's daily life. He instilled Mahaprabhu's teachings, Mahaprabhu's glories into the culture, just in this very natural way, through song. So you'll hear, when you're in Navadvip, you'll hear or different parts of Bengal, you'll hear the villagers singing these songs, it's their language, and it's just beautiful poetry. So a very wonderful way in which he spread Mahaprabhu's glory, and it was very important because this is 2 generations after Mahaprabhu, and he his contribution, along with especially Shamananda Prabhu and Srinivasacharya, they in particular, their contribution was very valuable in keeping Mahaprabhu's message alive, because otherwise the great Messiah comes and then they leaves and everything can be forgotten. So those persons in the generations after who do that crucial work of keeping it alive, it's so important. And so Narottam was one of those. And it's extraordinary because he became such a great acharya. He had thousands of disciples, very widely renowned. But his guru was Lokanath Goswami, who had taken this vow that he wouldn't take any disciples. And Srila Sridhar, he made the comparison to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Srila Gorky Shordas Babaji, because like Narottam, Srila Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur, he also had thousands of disciples and had this huge mission all over India. But his guru, Gorky Shordas Babaji, his mood was more nirjan bhajan, solitary, his solitary worship and service. And in both cases, they had to request something like 18 times, like requesting again and again, and they were refused because both Gorkishore and Lokanath Goswami, they had zero desire, for Pratishta. And Srila Saraswati Thakur, he just as like an example of this like difference in mood. Srila Saraswati Thakur, he, when he was conceiving of this mission, to spread the teachings of Mahaprabhu Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he came to this conclusion that he needed to go to Calcutta. Calcutta's, it's a hot spot, So he came to that realization. He needed to make something in Calcutta if he really wanted to connect with people. And so he told that to Gorkishore, and Gorkishore Das Babaji told him, don't go to Calcutta. Calcutta is the place of Kali. Better you stay in the safety of the Dham. That was his mood and style, of worship. But Srila Saraswati Thakur, he took that in like the opposite way, and Srila Gurudev said, he actually published it somewhere, my Gurudev ordered me to go to Calcutta. Because the way Saraswati Thakur understood it was, Calcutta is the place of Kali. It's the stronghold of Kali. So if you really want to defeat Kali, then you have to go there. That's the place, like Napoleon's strategy. You defeat the stronger section of the army, and then everything else will follow. So similarly, Lokanath Goswami, he really did not want, any followers, any pratishta, nothing. And as we mentioned the other day, he'd keep a water pot upside down, by the tree that he was sleeping under, because then even that, there wasn't that excuse for someone to exchange with him. Somebody would come, oh, can I have some water? He doesn't even have water, so he keeps it empty and just goes to the Jamuna when he needs and takes what he needs. So like to that extreme. But Narottam, he was so persistent, and finally did that very humble seva, cleaning the stool of Lokanath Goswami, and thereby captured his heart. And he never met Mahaprabhu, but he received the special blessings of Mahaprabhu before he was born. Even he was staying in Ketori Gram, which I think he was born there. I think it's now it's now in what's Bangladesh, or what was East Bengal, Ketori Gram. So he was born there, and Mahaprabhu, I think, and it's on the banks of this river called Padma River, and Mahaprabhu at one time when he was traveling to Vrindavan, from Puri, and he passed by that area, and he passed along the banks of that river, and so we've heard that when Mahaprabhu was passing by, he stopped on the banks of that river. And this is before Narottam's birth, and he called out 3 times, Narottam, Narottam, Narottam. And the devotees who were with Mahaprabhu, they were puzzled, didn't understand, what he was indicating. But then later, not so long after that, then Narottam, he appeared there. This is like 2 generations after Mahaprabhu. So he appeared there, and as you mentioned, he appeared in a very wealthy family. He was the only son. They were Kayasta, which as far as I understand, their caste was Kayasta, which, as I understand, they're considered differently in different parts of India. Like sometimes they're considered like Shudra, like the lowest caste. Sometimes they're considered. I've heard someone else say like in other parts of India, some something of the Kshatriya caste. I'm not sure. But generally, they're like businessmen, and they're wealthy people. And his parents were extremely wealthy. Krishnananda Dutt, and was his mother Malini, maybe? And they were called, they were considered like royalty because they were so wealthy. They were called, Raj and Rani, king and queen. And he was the only son, so like with Raghunath Das Goswami, all the family expectations were on his shoulders. But from his childhood, he had zero interest in any of that. And then there was a particular incident when, how old was he? I don't know, maybe 8, 9, 10, or 11, something like that, where he had some, maybe it was Nityananda Prabhu or maybe Mahaprabhu, or I don't remember, but he had like some he was given this inspiration like in the middle of the night one night to go into this river, this Padma river, and he was told, maybe it was like a voice, but he was told to go into this Padma river, and that Mahaprabhu had left something there for him, and so he did that. He entered the river and he received the embrace of Mahaprabhu, and after that he completely, everything became like 100 times more intensified within him. It was like Mahaprabhu descended in him. Srila Gurudev described him as being like a combined manifestation of Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, and even the luster of his body changed. It was darker before. It became this golden color, like Mahaprabhu. And from that time, he was always in this like state of ecstasy, crying and chanting and feeling this need to go to Vrindavan, to take shelter of the Vaishnavas there. But of course, his parents, they would not allow him. So this went on for some time, and then finally, at one time his father was away on some business, and he appealed to his mother, a little more soft-hearted, and was like, I'm gonna die. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, please give me permission to go to Vrindavan. And so she finally, she was moved by that. She gave him some little money, and he went to Vrindavan. And I think before that, he actually went to Navadvip, and he met with, because I think they met before, these three, they were like a trio, Narottam, Shyamananda, and Srinivas. I think they were like around like 13, 14, 15, something like that, like early teens. And I think they met first in the Bengal area, and there was a parikrama. I think he was a part of that. Mahaprabhu's servant Ishan, I believe, took them on a parikrama of Navadvip, and then afterwards they went to Vrindavan, and the three of them they studied under Srila Jiva Goswami. So Rup and Sanatan, they had like just left the world, and maybe Raghunath Das Goswami was present, maybe not, I'm not sure. But Jiva Goswami, who was like one of the younger Goswamis, he gave them shelter. There's a very beautiful description we've heard Srila Sridhar Maharaj give of how when Srinivasacharya arrived, I'm not sure if the three of them traveled together, or maybe they met in Bengal and then they separately went. I'm not exactly sure, because Srinivas went to Puri first, and then from Puri he went to Vrindavan. But anyhow, there's this description of Srinivasacharya. Like he was on his way to Vrindavan, and he was like hoping and expecting to take shelter of Rup and Sanatan. But as he was like on the journey, when he was in Mathura, he heard Sanatan Goswami has just left the world, and he was heartbroken. He's like right next door, you know, and just missed him. And then when he was arriving to Vrindavan, he reached I think it was the Govindaji temple, the temple of Rupa Goswami's own deity. And there was this like mad crowd, like this like sobbing, weeping crowd. They just heard the news that Rupa Goswami had left. And so Srinivasacharya, he arrived there like thinking, I'm going to meet Rupa Goswami, but right in the middle of this like a moment of intense grief, he arrived to find that he just missed him, and he just fainted there, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj said when he awoke, he found himself in the lap of Jiva Goswami. Jiva Goswami, and this just gives you like some. No, we hear some things like we're like off in a distance here and hearing different things, but like we can only like really imagine like the kind of like living intimate loving exchange, you know, that went on between them. You know like yeah they're great scholars, they're great Gaudiya Acharyas, and they did this and they did that, but also like how much love, you know, was in their heart, and what type of exchange, loving exchange, what happened between them. The only way we get some ideas is from our experience of Srila Gurudev, actually. You know, that he was one of those, you know, great acharyas who did this and did that and knew this and knew that. But he was also most loving, you know, and so intimate in his dealings with the devotees. So, you know, in the same way that Srila Gurudev would like personally care for devotees when they were sick, you know. And so Jiva Goswami's like got him in his lap, you know, taking care of him. So the three of them, they studied together under Jiva Goswami, and they took initiation from different Vaishnavas, but Jiva Goswami was like their instructor. Narottam took from Lokanath, but Jiva Goswami was their instructor. And you know, they're like young boys, you know, and getting this training together. And then finally at a point they had this service, you know, Jiva Goswami requested them because there was all this literature that had been given by the Goswamis about Mahaprabhu, and all the devotees in Bengal, they wanted to hear that, you know. I haven't heard like exactly what those books were, but Chaitanya Charitamrita may have been one of them, you know. So all this literature that had been like, that was like coming out of the Vaishnavas in Vrindavan, you know, the devotees in Bengal, they wanted to like, you know, they wanted to also get access to that. And so Jiva Goswami gave that job to them. You know, like, now your education is completed, and now you do the seva to bring all this back, and also, you know, start preaching, you know, start spreading the message. And so the three of them, they had this like really important task, and you know, now we've kind of like lost that appreciation because, you know, it's the age of, you know, multimedia, so like, you know, every text, you've got it in 20 different places and 20 different formats, you know. You can have it on you know, Facebook and, you know, Amazon and ebook and EPUB and, you know, so on and so forth. HTML document. But, you know, in those days, it was just, you have a book, you know. And not only that, but this is like before the, like, you know, printing, you know, like the you know, all this facility that we have, you know, printing books instantly, you know, like these are handwritten, right? It's like a major thing to have a book. So this was like really like serious seva. Like this was like precious stuff, you know. So they had this serious duty, and they had like some bullock cart and they traveled to Bengal, which I don't know, maybe a couple months or something that would take. I'm pretty bad with calculations. But then there's that history when they reached the border of Bengal, Vishnupur, and there was a local king there who Raj Birhambir, who stole the books because he thought that they were sleeping, like they set up camp, right? You know, they traveled through the day, then at night they'd set up camp and sleep for the night wherever they were. And so when they reached that border and they woke in the morning, they found the books had disappeared. And so they're devastated. And it was Srinivas was like the elder of the group of these three. And they spent some time looking for the books. And then Srinivas told them, Shamananda and Narottam, you know, like, you two go, like, just start the preaching work, and I'll stay here and try and, you know, take care of this. And then finally, he stayed a long time, some months or maybe even 1 year, and Gurudev said he even got sick because he was so, like, intently searching for these books, and he was devastated about what had happened and feeling so responsible and not eating properly. He got sick, and then finally one of his friends invited him to a Bhagavatam recital that took place at the king's palace, and the person who was giving the talk was giving some type of bogus interpretation. And Srinivas, he was a very humble Vaishnava, but at a certain point he just couldn't tolerate it anymore, and so he stood up and challenged him. And then the king, his interest was, you know, piqued, and he could see Srinivas was the real thing, and so he invited him to come and to speak something, you know, give the proper understanding. And so he did, and I came across one report. It was published in a Back to Godhead magazine. It was like, there's so many different accounts that are written, like, from different persons of that era, you know, of all of these Vaishnavas of that time, Narottam and Srinivas. There, you know, there's a lot that's been recorded, you know. So anyhow, there's some, like, eyewitness account there of that meeting that I read in this Back to Godhead. And they said that his discourse was so sweet that the walls were melting. I don't know what that means, you know, but that's what they said. And so the king was, you know, he was overwhelmed with joy, because the king, he was like he had some, you know, he had his bad side, but he was also, you know, had some appreciation for Vaishnavism, and he surrendered to Srinivas, and you know, what can I do for you? And Srinivas, well, you know, I've been here all this time trying to find these books. And then the king confessed, oh, I've got those books, because he had like a band of thieves. And he had an astrologer, Jyotish, who would calculate, like, where there was some treasure that was worthy of robbing. And so he was told, like, at this time, this place, there's going to be this very precious treasure coming through. And so these thieves, they went and stole that, the books, you know. And the king got that, and he opened, he saw its books, so he was totally confused. But he checked the calculations again and again, it came out that this was like precious jewels. And so he understood these were actually, you know, these were like you know, jewels in the form of books. And so he was actually worshipping those books every day, offering incense. So anyhow, he gave those to Srinivas, and Srinivas, he became like a guru in that area. The king and his family and many of the citizens, they took initiation from him. And then they held this really grand festival in Kiturigram, and I think it was at the place of Narottam, in Narottam's village, his home village. They had this big festival, and I think it was think it was, I heard it was the first Gaur Purnima festival that was celebrated, and all the Vaishnavas, you know, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas were invited, so many of them came. And Janava Devi, she was still present, the Shakti of Nityananda Prabhu. She was like the head of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas at that time. She came as like the guest of honor and presided over everything. And it was a huge festival, went on for some days, and there were 6 deities that were installed at that time. And I heard one description that one of like the major highlights of the festival was when Narottam would dance. he was apparently like this wonderful dancer. And so then from there, you know, Narottam, he went on to become this, you know, huge major acharya. And there's so many things told about him. He had one very good friend called Ramchandra Kaviraj. And I just heard this yesterday. I hadn't heard it before. There's so many stories about Narottam. There's like whole books, you know, written about him. And there's so many stories, and every now and again I'll hear like another one from Gurudev that I somehow didn't like hear before. But I heard one yesterday. This devotee Narottam was like his Ramchandra Kaviraj was like his best friend, and in that song that we sing, Ramachandra Sangye Maga Narottam Das, and Narottam is saying, "Oh, I'm praying to have the company of Ramchandra." You know, they were very good friends. But I just heard yesterday from Gurudev how they first met. That Ramchandra, he was like a Kali worshipper. His family were Kali worshippers, and he was out one day. He was collecting some goats for like a big goat sacrifice, and he said it was like 100 or 108 goats. Like this was going to be a big one. It's a very special offering to Goddess Kali, and so he was out. Like he'd been collecting this big group of goats for his father for a sacrifice, and then Narottam happened to meet him there, and Narottam had some debate with him and convinced him, you know, not to do this, and then just totally converted him, and Ramchandra came and stayed with him, and then he actually took initiation from Srinivasacharya, but Narottam was like his best friend. And another really nice story we heard from Srila Gurudev about Ramchandra Kaviraj was that Narottam, because he became such a powerful acharya, and so many people came to take initiation from him, and even persons of higher castes, you know, Brahmins were taking initiation from him. And normally there's some type of stigma, you know, attached to someone of a lower caste taking initiation. For someone of a higher caste to take initiation from someone of a lower caste, because there's some, you know, attachment to this material, birth, status, all this stuff. So normally, like a Brahmin could only take initiation from another Brahmin. They couldn't take from there's even like divisions of different types of Brahmins. You know, it's really, you know, goes really out there. So anyhow, you know, but you know, so many Brahmins, they could recognize the spiritual potency of Narottam, so they disregarded those considerations. But then there was a whole group of Brahmins who really resented this, and he had like this whole anti-party against him, and so there was one occasion when there was some group of these Brahmin pundits who were coming to challenge Narottam about what he was doing. However, at that time Narottam was actually very sick, and so Ramchandra Kaviraj, he thought, I have to protect my friend, you know. He's not well enough to deal with this. I don't want him to you know, have to be stressed by this. And so he conceived this plan, and he set up this little stall on the outskirts of the town, and like where the travelers would come if they were entering that town, and he set up a little stall selling these clay pots, which travelers would always buy to cook their food. So he strategically placed himself where he knew they would come, and they definitely stopped these people who were coming to challenge Narottam. And so they, sure enough, they arrived, and they stopped there and purchased some of these pots. And then Ramchandra, he was very educated, and he started speaking to them in Sanskrit. And they were like really surprised, like, who's this, you know, like potwala, like random stall keeper talking to us in Sanskrit. They were very surprised. And then then Ramchandra entered into a debate with them, and he defeated them, and they were just totally blown away, you know. And then they asked him, is everybody in this town like this? Like, you know, they're thinking this random shopkeeper, he's so brilliant. Like, is this just like normal here? Like, is everybody like this? And then Ramchandra, he said, no, this is the village of, or this is the place of Narottam Thakur. Of course, you know, everybody's like this, you know. So then they like freaked out. They thought, like, my God, if this like random guy is like this, then, you know, what to speak of what Narottam is like? Like, we're just going to be totally like ruined. We're going to be humiliated and destroyed. So they just turned around and they left. And then we also heard from Srila Gurudev about how Narottam left his body. And this was he showed some sickness, and for some time, and then he left his body, and this was like kind of like at a height when all these Brahmins were like really against him, making, you know, propaganda against him. And so when Narottam left like this, like showing him for some months or something, he'd been showing himself to be getting progressively sicker, and then he left. And so then when he left in that way, and at that time, Narottam's disciples were very concerned, because they thought, you know, these Brahmins they're gonna take this as, make it part of their propaganda. You know, they're gonna we know what they're gonna say. You know, they're gonna say he made so many offenses to the Brahmins, and now he has to suffer, you know. So he's had to leave like this. And so they were really concerned that like all the work that Narottam had done, you know, it would be spoiled. You know, like Narottam had done so much to spread the glory of Mahaprabhu, and what he did was so noble, so dignified. But if he left in this particular way, at this particular time, in some way it would spoil what he'd done, because people would use that against him and to undermine the value of what he'd given. And so at that moment when he left his body, he was surrounded by some of his disciples, and they prayed to him, you know, please, Gurudev, don't go like this, you know, all your work will be ruined, you know, please come back. And so he actually came back to his body. And you know, we understand that the Vaishnavas, when they are manifesting sickness, it's just a show, you know. It's, you know, for their own purpose. They're doing that, you know, whether to, you know, engage others more in service, you know, like we felt that with Srila Gurudev, you know, that it was actually like an opportunity for service. It was a way of, you know, drawing people's hearts, and so many different reasons. There's also the example of Vamsi, I think it's Vamsidas Babaji. Yeah, Vamsidas Babaji. He before he lived like practically his whole life in Navadvip, and then when he was going to leave his body, he didn't want to leave in the Dham, because then people would say, oh, holy man, So he actually went, I think it was his birthplace that he went back to. And he also manifested all these like horrible sores on his body. And he would tell the people, look at me, what a sinful man I am, what a sinful life I have lived. Now I have to suffer for that. So he could avoid, receiving pratishta from people. It's just extraordinary, we go mad for pratishta, but the real Vaishnavas, they run from it, they really run from it. There's one place where Srila Sridhar Maharaj is speaking very personally, and he says, I don't know if you will believe this or not, but since my childhood, if somebody would praise me, I feel some pain in my heart. I feel, genuine discomfort about that. So, the Vaishnav, the real Vaishnavas, they don't like to make any big show, They prefer to, to live and to leave in a very humble way. And so Narottam, he was leaving like that, but because of the request of his disciples, he came back, and he stayed for, I think it was something like 2 months more, and then he announced to his disciples, now I'm going to leave, and he gave them the time and the place, and it was I don't remember which river, but it was the bank. He told them, come to the banks of this river at this time, and then I will leave my body there. And this news, it spread, and so at that time many persons gathered, including many of these Brahmins who were anti to him, to observe what would take place. And so he entered that water, and as we heard from Srila Gurudev, his body turned into milk, and he merged with the water of that river. And then everybody, there were so many witnesses to this, and everyone could understand, this is a very great Vaishnava Acharya, and so that purified the hearts of those who had been offensive to him, and they could understand their mistake. So there's actually no samadhi for Narottam. There's a pushpa samadhi for him in Vrindavan, which generally we go to on a prikra, but there's no actual samadhi, where his, and it's normally, where his body is placed. And another point Srila Sridhar Maharaj has made is how it's very, very interesting, very significant about Narottam, is that he had such intense devotion for his guru Lokanath Goswami, right? He went to such lengths to get the mercy and to be accepted by Lokanath Goswami. But at the same time, Srila Sridhar Maharaj pointed out, he was not a blind follower, and he could understand that this line is going to Rupa Goswami, and the aspiration of this line is service under Rupa Goswami. And so we have that song, Shri Rupa Manjari Pada, where he's so earnestly expressing the aspiration for the service of Rupa Goswami as being everything, as being all in all. And he also has another song, which we've just heard quoted, by Srila Sridhar Maharaj. How does it go? Kabe mor Lokanath hatete diya, something like that. But he's saying, when will Lokanath take me by the hand and give me to the hand of Rupa? like that. When will he take me and give me to the hand of Sri Rupa? So he had so much devotion for his guru, but he also understood, where is this line going, to Sri Rupa, and he expressed that intense aspiration for the service of Rupa. And it's also extraordinary because, he never met, Rupa Goswami. And how did he know that actually, I mean, no doubt, being there in Vrindavan in the association of those Vaishnavas there, he understood these things. But we can also understand that there was some revelation in his heart. I mean, it's so extreme, that song, Rupa Manjaripad, it's so extreme, that hankering that's being expressed there for the connection of Rupa. That was some revelation in the heart. And so that's, very hopeful for us. These planes of truth, they're living, they're eternally existent. They're like doors in the world of consciousness that can open to you. And it's not dependent on time, place, circumstance, or anything like that. The physical meeting, the physical connection, it doesn't count for anything in the final estimation of things. So we can understand how one can receive the grace of all of these great Vaishnavas without even having, had that physical meeting, that physical connection. So, anyhow, very special day for us in this month of Kartik. And we pray for the grace of Srila Narottam Thakur, just what little we can remember. As I said, there's so much told about Narottam, but what little we can remember from what we've heard from our Gurudev and Param Gurudev, we're trying to share that at this time. We pray for his divine grace, the grace of our Guru Varga in this line. Jai Srila Narottam Das Thakur ki Jai, Tadi Tir Bhav Mahamahotsav Titi ki Jai, Srila Gurudev ki Jai, Param Gurudev ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande.